We have an audio question that we'll get to here from Steve.
Hey Solomonster, this is Steve from ProWrestlingLinks.com. Is it time, with all the focus on the women's division in the WWE, is it time that they just get their own show? I mean, completely take them off of Raw, SmackDown, give them their own weekly show, and then that way you have all the women in one place on one show for all the people that want to watch women's wrestling. One world title for them, one set of tag titles, and it's possibly a secondary title, I guess, like a women's intercontinental championship. I don't know what you would call it, but what are your thoughts? Is it too much? Is it not the right time? Would it not work? Would it work? What do you think?
I think they should absolutely have an all-women's show if there's an audience for it. I don't know how well the Mae Young Classic stuff last year did, but if there's an audience for it, then absolutely do it. But taking the women off Raw and SmackDown and having them exclusively on their own show, I think that's a bad idea. That's just a big mistake. That I would not do. I would not treat the women, for example, like they do now, the cruiserweights, where they were on Raw, but then they took them off because I guess they want people to watch 205 live, and they feel like this is their way of pushing people to watch that show. I would not at all do that with the women. They need to be represented on the two main shows. I think any women's show that they do, much like this women's pay-per-view that's coming up in October, needs to be represented by talent from all three brands, and that includes NXT. That does not necessarily mean against one another, but they should all be represented on that show. And there should be storylines that cross over from show to show. Maybe they start on Raw one week, and then they sort of, continue on the women's show, or something starts on that show and bleeds over onto SmackDown the next week. The appeal of an all-women's weekly show should be the ability to see women from all three brands on the same program. And not every week either, like NXT, right? NXT, not everybody needs to be on every single show. It's one of the things I like about NXT. That and the fact that it's only an hour long. But I think you give the women an hour and you see how it goes. If it does well, you can always expand to 2 hours, because I think there's enough talent. They have a lot of female talent right now. An hour may not be enough, but I'd rather start small and then grow it from there than sort of the other way around. But Ronda Rousey, for example, Ronda Rousey should not be limited to a women's only show on the network. Same thing goes for Charlotte and Sasha and people like that. This idea of them possibly headlining a WrestleMania, whether it's next year or the year after, maybe Ronda against Charlotte, I still think that has to be the favorite to be the main event of WrestleMania next year. If you're going to do that, you can't do that if they never appear on the main shows. And whether you like it or not, the main shows are and will continue to be Raw and SmackDown. And to not have any women on that show, I think, would be foolish. Now, when they not a matter of if, right? It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when they introduce new women's tag team titles. I am not in favor, as I said earlier, of having two sets of tag team titles where they have one for Raw and they have one for SmackDown. I think you have one set of what I call like floating tag team champions who can appear on Raw. They can appear on SmackDown. Every now and then they could even appear on NXT. But I just don't think you need two sets of tag team belts. And I'll make the same point I made earlier. I don't think you need two sets of men's tag team titles right now either. Look at the state of the tag team division on Monday Night Raw. Now, SmackDown is a little bit better, I guess, but not much. I would like to see them scale back to one set of tag team titles for the men, too, at least until they get their act together with the whole tag team scene.